and the Olympic flame will burn in Tokyo next year, no matter what. That's the blunt message from the International Olympic Committee that the rescheduled 2020 Games will go ahead on July 23rd next year, with or without COVID. Joe, you're our Olympian girl. Do you think the Olympic Games should go ahead no matter what the situation is?
Very torn with this one. Obviously, covering Tokyo will be my 7th Olympics and 2nd Paralympic Games. And I know for a lot of athletes, they are just hanging on by a thread to know that those games are going ahead. I think either way, a decision has to be made sooner rather than later for the athletes. And if you look at the decision that was made to delay, pretty much the IOC and the IPC were the very last people to finally acknowledge that the Olympics and Paralympics couldn't go ahead in 2020. And that actually mentally destroyed a lot of athletes right then, who then had to reassess their goals. Plenty of them retired. So part of my head says, I'm not sure if either of them will go ahead. My heart says, gosh, I hope they do go ahead. But there are just so many things at play. I mean, you look at where we are now, even if there is a vaccination, are they going to be able to vaccinate 15,000 athletes plus 6 support people per athlete, put them in one village all together with many of them playing contact sport? I don't know.
More than contact sport, we all know what goes on at the Olympics. Isn't condom like the biggest? It's more valuable than money. Condoms are at the Olympics in the Olympic Village. But Joe, I do get it, because when I think of you, I can't help but remember this moment from 2000 when you got to run, got the torch outside the Sydney Opera House. And I remember seeing you in interviews and you just had tears. And I think this was a moment Australia really fell in love with you. Anyone who watched those scenes and how much you just loved that moment, Australia will forever love you because of this moment. I think you could kill. You're like Donald Trump. You could kill a man, and Australia would still love you.
Okay, too far. I don't think so.
All right, maybe too far. But my point being that, in all seriousness, you can see the joy that you had in that moment, and that's obviously what people all around the world want to get back to with having the Olympics back on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole 2 weeks of the Sydney Olympics and the 3 weeks we did Olympic Sunrise was extraordinary. But part of the reason why I was so emotional, just apart from the love and the joy and the sheer excitement about the Olympics that you felt from just masses and masses of people that were down at Circular Quay, was in the pre-briefing. We're in there with some pretty amazing people, and Olivia Newton-John was asking if her daughter could run with her, and they were saying absolutely not, absolutely no children, no support staff, no one is, they cannot run with you. You've been selected. And I was a single mum going through a pretty interesting stage as far as child custody right through the Sydney Games, and I came around the corner, and in the middle of the street were my 2 boys who were aged 3 and 2, and my nephew who was 3, and I just kind of lost the plot, as you saw. And when I went up to this policeman said to me, look, the only thing that would have made seeing my dad run would have been if we could have run with him. And I thought, what are they going to do the night before the game? Sack me? And so he had actually gone into the crowd, got the kids out and brought them into the middle of the road. So it was
brilliant.
Unbelievable.
COVID's surely still going to be around. It's going to be really hard to have a situation where it won't spread.
Well, I'm a little bit like Joe in the sense that I'm a little bit in two minds, because I think that there is something really positive about us looking forward to something. I think that we don't have that crystal ball, though, to be able to tell what it's going to be like at that time. So it seems a little bit preemptive to say that, look, we're going to go ahead with this regardless, because we are going to need to continue to evolve. But like I said, there's a lot of Australians, there's a lot of people around the world right now looking for some hope and looking for something really positive. And that's what sport is about. And I've spoken about this throughout this whole pandemic, and that is the power of sport. I'm not a big sports fan, but I certainly understand that is the fibre of a lot of people's lifestyles. It's so important in their routine. And I think that looking forward to the Olympics is important.
And look, Robert, there's also a lot of money involved here. The television rights to the Olympics is a huge deal, and a lot of broadcasters rely on the ratings that the Olympics generate.
Yeah, I agree with Ben and Joe. I think that this is the kind of thing that the world needs. And I think in a year's time, we either are going to learn to live with COVID or still be in this kind of weird idea that we can get rid of it. I just don't think we can get rid of it. But if we can make the games as safe as possible, because like Joe said, there are 15,000 athletes who, everything that they do in their lives, from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep, they are focusing on competing in this wonderful stage, this world stage of sport. And I just think that, it obviously had to be cancelled this year. That we can't deny that. But I think I actually appreciate the IOC coming out and say, COVID or not, we're going to put these games on. So yes, it might not have an opening ceremony, it might not have a closing ceremony. There might be things a little bit different, but at least all the people around the world who have trained and have done the air diet that Joe talked about at the beginning of the show, where they just ate air. They need their time to enjoy the fact that they haven't just eaten air for no reason, that they can get there. And I also think it's like Ben said, it's a really important thing for us to look forward. The Olympics, it's a global movement. It connects everything in a way that nothing else does. And I think it would be very important to keep that flame burning. Sorry to sound so cliche at the end there. It sounded better in my head. But
I loved it.
That's good.
Keep the
we
flame
so
burning.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo.